there was one thing that kept popping up and popping up and popping up, and everyone kept texting us, and it's all over social media, and it's like violently politicized and gross, and we have to talk about it. Let's walk the whole thing back.
All right.
Let's start with the Olympics.
Okay.
What I've seen of the Olympics in totality was Gojira performing at the opening ceremony.
Yeah, got you.
So right off the jump with the Olympics, right, before we go into the controversy and shit surrounding this, right, is the guy at like the Last Supper and his ball falling out and stuff, which I thought was kind of funny, right? I heard his nut fell out or something.
His nut was like fully exposed the entire time.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see it, but that like cracks me up, whatever. So the whole thing, the whole Olympics from the jump, before it even started, is already
heavily politicized, heavily polarizing.
Polarizing is a great way to say it. So now I'll let you kind of...
people talk about it at the gym and they're asking our takes on it. I'm like, oh, you know what's funny? I'm not going to actually address this with you at all because I don't know what your opinion is and I don't fucking care. It doesn't matter. It's a fact that the media on kind of both sides of party lines are pushing crazy narratives as aggressive as possible.
So looking at who's posting what, right? The people that are posting one way or another, right? No matter what my opinion is, based objectively, factually, scientifically, what have you, I don't necessarily know that I'm going to sway anyone's opinion, regardless. Now, going into this too, like, for context, Mark and I have degrees of higher education in science. Between the two of us, we have 4 degrees of higher education in the fields of sciences, right? We're not going to look at this necessarily through a scientific guise.
At all. What we'd like to talk about is kind of what gender looks like in a boxing gym.
Because you guys are, in fact, boxing gym owners, boxing trainers, matchmakers, and promoters. So you guys, as the saying goes, you guys know shit about boxing, whereas other people don't.
And we've seen it.
I think we should start it off. How advantages basically are a function of a biological advantage times a skill level. You guys probably see all kinds of different advantages in the gym, and you guys can speak to skill.
Yeah, so we talk about it all the time. So everyone has a genetic predisposed ceiling, athletic ceiling. And whether that's like physical or it's physiological, like how tall you're going to end up being, or how well you're able to pick up a sport. There's a physiological, biological ceiling.
I'll give you just like an athletic aside. So Mark and I, a lot of our height is actually in our torso. So when we present in a boxing ring, our height isn't as advantageous as you might think. So if we were swimmers, which we're not, our length, our totality in length would be more advantageous because with our arms up extended, all that torso is advantageous. But our actual arms themselves are not actually as long.
Yeah, we're just under 6 feet tall. I'm 5'10", Matt's just over 5'11", and our wingspan is probably shorter than that.
It's actually shorter.
And a lot of our guys that are like 5'7", or girls that are like 5'5", 5'6", their wingspan is 5'8", 5'9".
Longer, so they have a biological advantage in that regard. So they have a higher ceiling because they have that, intangible.
But so that we always talk about the ceiling, like that's your maximum capacity. And if you don't have the skill set to kind of take advantage of your biological disposition, then you're not necessarily on a higher playing field than somebody else.
Yes. As you were saying, in terms of athletic ceilings, people are going to have a predisposition to having, more advantages regardless. People are going to be taller and stronger naturally. Which brings us to the part that you can factor in, which is the skill factor. Now, even then, there is going to be some nature versus nurture argument there, obviously, right? But we do see people that join the gym at the same time that have similar attributes, and there is a difference in abilities, and a lot of times it has to do with time in the gym, time dedicated to craft, things of that nature. So
and it's so like a lot of people use like the steroid or juicing argument and stuff like that, but like Barry Bonds was able to put up those numbers because he was on gear and because he had a remarkable skill set.
Yeah.
Like Lance Armstrong wasn't going to fucking crush the Tour de France
from blood doping just because he blood doped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you and I if you did Barry Bonds level steroids and I blood doped, I'm not winning the Tour de France and you're not winning home run derbies.
So I'll tell you that I think
you could win the home run derby.
Like I just got like a feel. That's like the guys who like I can't fight, bro, but when I get angry, I see red.
I see red, bro.
But yeah, it's like if you don't have the skill set,
it
doesn't matter what your genetic predisposition is.
Yes. So, there's a little bit of both.
It's a little bit of both.
Because, like, you get a guy with, like, I mean, I guess a good example would be, like, a Deontay Wilder.
I was just going to bring him up.
So, Deontay Wilder, like, being objective, and again, like, you could say what you want, I'm sitting on this couch, and I'm not Deontay Wilder, but, like, Deontay Wilder fundamentally is not going to be an all-time boxer. He does not
His
have...
fundamentals are not great.
They're not great.
And even the staunchest defender wouldn't be like, he's a technician in the ring.
The most prideful Deontay Wilder fan is not going to be like, he has great dynamic boxing. What he does have is God-given power that is exponential, like otherworldly, and he touches you and you just turn the fuck off. So there is a checks and balances there. So it is a combination of the two.
And as we've seen, there are people that don't have that particular God-given knockout power that can beat Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, correct. Right? And then also, additionally, we do see when those biological factors begin to wane, the skill levels offset it. Well, like when Roy Jones started to age, and guys like Antonio Tarver, who is an athlete, who is skilled, but not necessarily has that same biological advantage that a guy like Roy Jones has. Eventually, when Roy Jones is slowing down, and guys like Antonio Tarver are able to box him up and catch him because he doesn't have the same, restraint and skill sets, because his natural reflexes and stuff start to wane. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna go Glenn Johnson. Like if you like Tarver was at least a real top 3.
If you look at a guy like Glenn Johnson has an amazing resume and wins. But if you I remember watching Glenn Johnson hit a heavy bag, and it always sticks out to me. Glenn Johnson hitting a heavy bag before the Roy Jones knockout, and I thought, I know Roy Jones had lost to Tarver leading up to it, whatever. But I said, well, okay, this is the get-right fight. And I think everyone thought that. Jones thought it. Everyone thought that. Glenn Johnson looked old then. He wasn't old, but he looked like an old man hitting a heavy bag. He didn't look skilled. He didn't look fat. He didn't look unskilled, but he just looked like an old guy just kind of going through the motion on a heavy bag. And then he came out and he beat a Roy Jones who's biological advantages had waned at that point because the skills weren't there,
So putting this in the context of the news of today,
yes.
Do you see women in the gym that are way more skilled than guys in the gym of the same weight class that could beat the bag out of them?
I mean, it's an unfortunate soft take, and the answer is yes and no. So we do have both. So we have women in the gym. We have so many unbelievable women in the gym, real badass motherfuckers.
Yeah,
like
women have gone to nationals, women that are pros.
Yeah, and every day in our gym we have women sparring men, women punching men in the face, men punching women in the face every single day. With that being said, there's women in the gym that will train with men, that will fight men, but there are women in the gym that will not. So like one boxer in particular I was talking with has fought at the highest level, has won tournaments, has fought professionally, was like, I would never feel comfortable fighting a guy my size at my experience level because they carry a biological advantage. So this is someone that has fought, and she trains with men every day. She spars men every day. But the thing is, she knows that within our program and under our tutelage that we're always there to pull the eject button. Conversely, there's other women that would send it. I remember early on, way back in the day, we have this girl, Ashley Kay, that still trains with us, but she's a massive puncher, huge puncher.
Big puncher.
Was another tournament champion, and we put her in with a guy that was far less skilled, same size. I can't remember what country he was from. He was European, though, and he had kind of an arrogant way about him. I was like, just so you know, Ashley is She
happens to be female.
She happens to be female, and also the way she carries herself
She's very
is
sweet.
It's very female. We call her Ashley Big Hair. She has crazy hair. She her trademark. She has this red lipstick, and we're look, she's a girl, but she's gonna beat the shit out of you, right? And he like kind of laughed, and I was like, she's going
To beat the
to
shit
beat
out of you,
the shit out of you. And she fucked him up so bad that when she caught him with the left hook, he rolled his ankle and broke his leg in the ring. So there's both of it. So again, like looking at it objectively, I know it's a soft take, but unfortunately there is some, you know, course of action for both sides of it, you know.
Well, good segue into just kind of how it is in the gym, and even historically how women would get work in the gym, because in the early days there weren't a lot of women in the gym, so they always
nailed it.
if
So-
they
yeah.
have to fight men.
It's funny. So you say the early days, and you're right. It's the early days are 15, 20 years ago, and that's what's really fucked up. It's like Matt and I remember being at Somerville Boxing Club in like the mid 90s, and there'd be 1 or 2 total females in all of New England. When I was coming up through Nonantum, I fought at 132 pounds. I was a small dude. And I was the main sparring partner for this girl, Julie Marabella.
Yep.
Marabella. I always fuck up the last. It's very Italian. She ended up beating Shelly Vincent as an amateur, and I was
In
her
the Golden
main,
Gloves,
in
yeah.
the Golden Gloves, and I was her main sparring partner. And it's funny because like people would ask me, and this is probably around 2007, 2008, so before, you know, the big female fighters were as prolific as they were, and
Yeah.
people were like, are you worried about losing to a girl? I'm like, well, first of all, you don't lose rounds in sparring, you fucking squid, you moron. You get work in. And I'm like, for me, it was another person that needed work to be better. And if they didn't have any sparring partners, I was their guy. She fought at like 125. I was the closest probably around that weight. So I was the one who was going to give her work. Now in the gym, times are different now.
So the dynamic has changed so dramatically. I will say that we do, like every Saturday we have, you know, you've been down to our gym on Saturdays. Sometimes we'll have 50, 75 people sparring because we have gyms throughout New England. It is harder to match female and female, so you do see quite a bit of unisex sparring. I'll say that we tend to do unisex sparring more in-house, meaning within members of our own gym, because we can regulate and control it more, I guess, more vigilantly.
Yeah.
And it is funny. It's not just female and male, but also like age-wise. Sometimes we got buff, and we always talk about, but like some of the older folks, when they're sparring, get upset when people don't go too hard on them. But conversely, it's like hard if you get like an 18-year-old kid throwing grenades off like a 66-year-old dude sparring, or, you know, a female boxer that might have biological, you know, disadvantages, you know. So it is hard to navigate that. But the reality is we have to do unisex sparring in order to, you know, further our program.
And a lot of times with unisex sparring, a lot of times the females are always at a disadvantage because one of two things will happen. One, the male will go too light, which is like this, like you can't handle it, I
Yeah.
have to go too light. Or they go fucking balls out to kind of prove a point. We brought our girl Jane to a local boxing club. She sparred somebody who wasn't from that boxing club.
No.
I'm trying to be as cryptic as possible.
Yeah.
And
I was watching a separate ring. I was watching 2 dudes spar.
Yeah.
Mark was watching the second ring with Jane and this other.
Yeah, and our girl Jane was on the U.S. national rugby team. She's a prolific knockout artist.
she was
I
in
think
the
she's-
Navy
yep.
and after Navy in college, and then after enlisted as a Marine after the fact. Like, she's like the realest of real. She had 3 first-round knockouts in a row. You know,
And she moved with this kid, this blonde guy, and he was like a physically imposing, and he went as hard as he could in the first like 30, 45 seconds of the first round. Kind of caught her off guard for a second, and then she broke his nose, and then they did another round, and she you know when a broken nose is like becomes unrecognizable, like she like smushed his nose.
Yeah.
And she's like, fuck this kid. Like,
Yeah.
you want to go balls out.
But
Like,
we're
dude, I'm
lucky it
not
was
the
Jane
one.
though too, because like not necessarily everyone would be able to handle that. But you know what? It's also like that could be the case with like male and male sparring
Yep.
too. So we are like, so with unisex sparring, like outside of the gym, we're a little bit more particular and careful. But like with someone like Jane, we could have put her in there with a dude, and you know, she can hold her own. So
what we're trying to get at, that a lot of people that are in the conversation aren't
Yep.
getting at, is that men and women in the gym trading punches in the ring together, like, it's not as outlandish as they think.
Yeah, so these people who are watching it and like the idea of it, is jarring to them because they think of like things like domestic assault. It's like, no, these are like two fighters. One happens to be male, one happens to be female. We see it all the time in boxing clubs, all the time, and it's not that we're desensitized to it. It's that like it is the norm. Like,
yeah,
it
also, but like on the flip side, right? Whether you're saying, you know, to take a contrarian stance or devil's advocate, what have you, in their defense, right? It's in a far more regulated circumstance.
That's fair.
In our gym than necessarily, you know, on the broader stage. And then depending on how you're viewing, you know, the context of the Olympics in this instance or other instances, you know, there are some blurred lines. Now, and this isn't the first time this has been brought up. There's stuff with USA Boxing that's a little bit polarizing as well. So while it isn't uncommon that, you know, at, you know, Nolan Brothers Boxing and Waltham, that we're going to have intersex sparring constantly, like, it might not be someone like, you know, a Sean Porter type athlete smashing someone of the same weight and experience that's a female counterpart. So it is, I get that as well.
So the third point here that you guys can speak to as promoters.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Clarissa Shields just mentioned this. She's totally down with fighting dudes professionally. Yes. And as it is, they would probably make more money in doing so.
Yeah, so let's talk about unisex competition. So USA Boxing, it might be over a year old now, but right around a year or two old. It's very hard for females to be matched. It's still a male dominant sport. So you know the members of USA Boxing who participate in, you know, Olympic style amateur boxing skews heavily male.
Yeah.
So it's hard for females to get fights. And this is most apparent the younger you get. The younger you are, the harder it is to get fights in general. So there's a bunch of, it used to be JO, just junior Olympic. Now there's intermediate, Pee-wee and Bantam and whatever.
Yeah.
If between the ages of 8 and 10 years old, male and females can fight each other under USA Boxing rules. It's a brand new thing. The coaches all have to agree to it.
Yep.
The boxers have to agree to it. And the reason they decided to do that was to allow more opportunities for females. If you were a 9-year-old female in, say, the New England region, you might have one other 9-year-old or 0 other 9-year-old females you can compete against. And then you might fight somebody in a national or international competition who has 60, 70 fights just because there was a couple of girls their age and weight class. So they're like, in order for us to gain that experience, in order for these females to gain that experience, we have to give them more opportunities. Between 8 and 10 years old, because they're prepubescent, the testosterone isn't really a factor. If anything, biological females tend to mature faster physically. I'm not talking about psychologically.
Of course, it's like another sticking point, and people are like, well, I'd never let my daughter fight. And it's like, well, good news, you don't have to, right? Like, it has to be a conversation and stuff like that. So so even on the youngest levels, at the amateur level, it's already something that's taken place. This is something that we've seen forever not forever, but in a long time in jiu-jitsu, in wrestling, in, you know, point fighting and karate and stuff. And then we do see it in freak show MMA fights and stuff like that. We're seeing more and more of it.
Yeah, like stuff in Russia, you'll see like 3 females against 1 overweight dude.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But to get back to your original point, like, I don't necessarily know that I want to see a huge push for kind of intersex competition, but Clarissa Shields is a fucking real one, and I'd tune in to watch her fight. I don't want to see her fight Thurman. You know what I mean? I don't want to see her fight like an A-lister right out the gate. I'm just saying. I don't. But would I pay to see her fight a top 50 ranked male just for the hell of it? Yeah, I think I'd tune in. Would she collect a? Well, go ahead, Matt. You're fucking loading up on it.
I would like to see her fight Keith Thurman. But no, I would. I don't give a shit.
I mean, if she wants to fight Keith Thurman, so that's the other thing is like, I'm not gonna treat like Clarissa Shields, like this fucking dainty,
There's that clip
like
where she
flower.
gets dropped by that dude who, again, like some Russian that no one knows, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, his gloves didn't have padding, and that was after blah, 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 blah. She makes some excuses, which is whatever. She has the right to. What I take away from that is she spars very good, large, strong male opponents regularly. That one little clip, she gets caught.
I'll also
like,
say, so folks know, like gym etiquette, posting sparring footage
That's a scumbag
is
move.
the biggest fucking scumbag
so
move of all
I
time.
completely side with her in that whole thing, you know. Because my takeaway with that is that someone posted that clip that, in my opinion, that shouldn't have been posted. I don't think any sparring should be posted, especially like a clip that just was put out to make her look bad. And additionally, like all that showed to me is that Clarissa Shields is sparring dudes that are, you know, I think he was like 8-1. Like he had like a legitimate record. He's her size, and she got caught. Okay, people get caught in sparring all the time, whether that was a male, female, anything, dude. So if Clarissa Shields wants to fight somebody her size that happens to be a biological male, and they put it on pay-per-view in Japan or Russia, probably not the States, I would tune in and we would break it down.
And it would absolutely be her biggest payday to date. Wouldn't even be close.
Yeah, someone
be
that, I mean,
close.
I have my coach's license for 25 years. I've owned a boxing club forever. I have every accolade in terms of boxing, and I could probably name 6 opponents for Shields. And the reason for that is just because it doesn't get the same attention. It doesn't. You know what I mean? So you put her in there against Keith Thurman, everyone wants to see it, especially me, then I'm buying that pay-per-view all day.